What they know about them Texas boys.
You're listening to the most dangerous show in Texas.
When they're not covering the sports world, they're talking about the world of professional wrestling.
It's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Now, with Justin Simmons, here's Stu Myrick.
It is not Fight Night ATX. It is Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We're taking over.
I feel like we should cut like a huge promo on them. Like I already have my hands together. Like I'm trying to be like, Big Daddy Cool in the background. Just trying to be intimidating.
We just need Dennis Rodman.
That would
right?
be awesome. I take Dennis Rodman.
Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons.
I was going to say, don't tell me you got Dennis Rodman on the interview.
I did
That's
not
a pretty
get,
cool
no.
interview. I'm not
No.
going to lie, regardless if he's a wrestler
It
or
would
not.
be cool. I mean, yeah, NBA Hall of Famer, one of the greats.
Not just as a player, but probably one of the most interesting. He's like the Jeff Hardy of basketball. There you go. There's our tie.
There you go. The Jeff Hardy. That might be the first time I don't know if he's ever heard that. The Jeff Hardy of basketball.
I don't think anybody has heard that yet. And Jeff Hardy is like the Dennis Rodman of pro wrestling. There, you've heard it here first, folks.
There you go. Okay, now we got it. Did you? By the way, they've got so WWE Network has a deal on. It was their Untold series on when Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone came in on Nitro.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite angles. Actually, it was it was entertaining. It definitely was entertaining.
Well, it led up to Goldberg beating Hogan.
Yeah.
in the Georgia Dome.
Oh man, I can tell you exactly where I was for that because I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and my dad does not watch pro wrestling, but I was like, Dad, I'm not missing this match. I gotta see you to put Goldberg over.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't say it like that back then, but yeah, I mean, that was must see TV.
I mean, obviously in hindsight, it's like, why didn't you put this on pay-per-view?
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
it was a smart move for ratings.
But yeah, as far as rating goes, that was huge. That was the moment. So who was it? Dennis Rodman wants a match with Gronk.
Book it.
Because Gronk is now the host of WrestleMania.
I've seen weirder things in a professional wrestling ring.
Did you love or hate the entrance of Rob Gronkowski?
I was pretty indifferent still.
It was. Now the cool thing was, it may have been. Hopefully, I'm giving the right people credit. Voices of Wrestling, I think, had a deal, or one of their people had a deal where somebody was taking that entrance and overlaying different songs. So they did "With My Baby Tonight" from Road Dogg and Jeff Jarrett.
I heard that.
They did Will Ospreay's theme. I think I saw a couple others. I mean, it was just that's a gift that keeps on giving. Gronk could not have been giddier to come down that ramp in an empty performance center on SmackDown Friday night.
Oh, definitely. He was excited. So, I mean, that carried over, and he's going to have that energy. It's kind of like Mojo Rawley. It's kind of like that's where they got the idea from Mojo Rawley, but now they actually got Gronk. So it's like...
Well, and now they've kind of taken Mojo Rawley and kind of reverted him back to, I guess, version 1, if you want to say.
Oh, yeah, he's a face again.
Back to, the hype bro. You know? So...
Which totally makes sense.
I kind of like. Obviously the other stuff, the blue goop and stuff, it was like, obviously they had no clue what they were doing with that. Mojo didn't really know what they were doing with it. Feel bad for Mojo.
Yeah.
Because he's a talented wrestler and he's a talented guy.
I mean, he's obviously athletic and such, but it's just one of those things. It's like we all, in trying my hand at the sport, I can tell you firsthand, it's more than just athletics. Yeah, watching somebody dive over the top rope, suicide plancha, something like that. It's always breathtaking to see. But how many people are going to be able to make you buy a T-shirt? Yeah. Like, is that going to get you to buy my T-shirt because you see it all the other times? What's going to separate one pro wrestler from another pro wrestler? And sometimes it's more than athletic ability. Can they talk? Do they have a certain look? Can they connect with you in a certain way that not other pro wrestlers can? It's just a really interesting aspect.
Well, and it was another case of someone found their groove in NXT, had a good run in NXT.
Yeah.
Bring them up, back then, bring them up to the main roster, and then they get lost.
Still happens.
It happens way too frequently. Yeah, and it still happens. You're right. There's so many that have lost their direction.
But you know, like when you have so many numbers, and the WWE has more talent than they could ever imagine having. I imagine this is more national talent in one place than Vince had ever thought that he would ever be able to acquire when he decided to take the WWF National back in the 80s, right?
Without a doubt.
Because he was just signing top talent then. Now he's signing all the top talent and some of that top underneath talent.
Yeah.
Which is smart for them, though. But
it's smart for them, but at the same time, it's a lot of it is...
But you know what I've been doing throughout this whole... Not necessarily like a quarantine, but lockdown, not being able to go out. I've been playing a lot of Risk on my PS4.
Okay.
Like the traditional board game Risk.
Right.
And it's all about ratios, right? You always have to go into that battle to roll a die. You know, it's going to be easier to beat 1 if you have 10 as opposed to a 1 to 4 opportunity, right? And with the WWE, you have so much talent. You really don't have to have things set for said talent when they get to the next level, because like Randy Savage said, the cream will rise to the top. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. Obviously, I feel that they should have storylines and things in place for them. But I think since they have such an embarrassment of talent, just so much richness when it comes to talent, that they can afford to make mistakes with a few people's careers because they know that they'll be taken care of, because somebody eventually will come along and plug that proverbial hole. Now, what they're going to do in lieu of losing John Cena, well, we'll find out still.
Well, and I get that, and you know, you've always been the kind of the man behind. You know, look, they're in the biggest company, they're getting paid. You know, they need to be happy, but at the same time, there is that artist within them. You know, and you know, as our good friend Colt Cabana says, pro wrestling is an art. And these are artists, and artists want to express themselves. And if you're stuck in the performance center, not because of your talent, but because basically they just don't have room for you. You know, look at key example: Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, 2 phenomenal talents. Vince lost interest, and now they're getting buried.
But as we saw on Monday Night Raw, if you put them in a tag team together, you might have something for them. And given the way that things are going to be shaping, because they're going to lose...
Maybe.
The Revival, who they never really used properly, but they're going to walk away eventually. Right. Think about it. I don't know about you, but that tag team match last night on Raw was probably one of the best tag team matches I've seen in a long time from WWE.
Okay, now which one? Because there was 2. Are you talking about?
I'm talking about
Cedric and Ricochet against Andrade and.
Oh yeah, those guys are
Angel Garza.
Yeah, those guys are all great. I mean, Andrade doesn't need to be in a tag team, but if it's going to help build the tag team division,
right, I
think it's a wonderful idea, and it's going to give those guys ample screen time to probably get back. And see, this is where it goes back to. Okay, look, I'm not taking anything away from Ricochet. Obviously, he has that one-of-a-kind talent in the ring that only him and maybe Will Ospreay. Those are the only guys that can do what they do.
Right.
Right? But is it going to sell T-shirts?
I think it would.
Let's go back and think about what we heard from him going into the Brock Lesnar match with his promos. And granted... He doesn't write what goes onto those promos, but he has to deliver it.
Yeah, he
didn't do a good job delivering it. And I don't mind saying that because it's hard to work with sublime stuff. I'm not saying that it isn't.
Okay,
but
hold on. Let's back up a second, because there are a lot of promos that are done in WWE that aren't very well delivered. But let's not forget, WWE's promos are tightly scripted.
Yeah.
They are written in somebody else's voice, obviously not the wrestler's voice.
No.
Whereas most places, and traditionally in wrestling, your promo, you're given a few bullet points, you're given a full high spots to hit. Otherwise, you go out and you say it your way.
Stu, you're preaching to the choir, my man, but you have to remember.
And I think Ricochet could do that if he's given the chance. Let's also not forget what happened with that match. I mean, Brock Lesnar squashed him in like a minute and a half, and I'm pretty sure Ricochet knew that. So it's kind of hard to put that kind of enthusiasm when you know it's gonna nobody in their right mind if Ricochet had delivered a Cody to Dustin type promo, people would still say, yeah, but Brock's going to beat you in like 2 minutes or less.
But Stu.
It's
And
always
don't,
a but.
and don't hate
There's
on this,
always a
but
big
yeah,
but.
I
I wish I had that Pee Wee Herman thing.
I loved Pee Wee Herman as a kid, but, and I'm going to say this from experience.
Yes.
The word professional, regardless of whatever you do for a living, means that you go in and give a professional effort, no matter what the circumstances may be. And as a broadcaster, I can tell you, I worked not obviously coronavirus is a huge deal, and I can't say it's anything near that, but I worked really sick during Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I tried to make it the best I could, make it sound like I wasn't, because that's my job.
Well, we both have done broadcasts where, like for high school football.
And how many times have we had to read a copy where it's just all like, oh, I would not say it like that, but go visit this place on X and X Boulevard.
Oh yeah,
you'll be happy that you did.
Yeah.
So our job is to make it great, as best as it could possibly be, and that's where he unfortunately needs work.
Yeah,
and
I'll say Ricochet can use help with his.
And
promos.
that's all I'm getting at is that Vince McMahon is like great. I've seen lots of great athletes.
Yeah,
I would prefer that. I'm sure. Look, let me talk. Okay, can I talk like this? I don't know how to do the Vince McMahon voice. I don't have a good Vince.
Damn it, pal.
That's pretty good. That's good, pal. I don't have a good Vince, so
All
I would think of it. But
all I can hear is our buddies from What Culture trying to do Vince, like Adam Wilborn and Simon Miller and those guys.
The guy from OSW Review does a pretty good Vince. Like, he can bust it out pretty well. I don't remember which name he is, but there's 3 Irish dudes. I can't remember which one.
Right. I'm trying to get Simon Miller on the show here.
That'd be great. I would love to talk with Simon.
Love Simon.
But in my mind, if I was Vince McMahon, this is what I feel Vince McMahon is saying about Ricochet. Pal, you're a great athlete, but I wish you were actually taller and your promo could use a little work.
Yeah.
Maybe not so kind.
No, of course not. Of course not. So...
but I'm thinking that's what he sees in him. But this tag team is a good chance for him to get back into things.
Now, the reason this tag team match is happening is because of WrestleMania. So, let's catch you up real quick. So, WrestleMania, we are less than 2 weeks away. They are going to have it as of right now, and we're taping this on Tuesday, March 24th. As of right now, WrestleMania is still happening. It's going to happen over 2 nights. Too big for one night. They're going to go the Wrestle Kingdom route. 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday, April 4th and 5th.
Now, if this was like a regular WrestleMania event where you would go to a huge football stadium and have to sit there for 7 hours, I don't want it in 2 nights.
No.
But with the way that things have transpired in the last couple of weeks, 2 nights is perfect.
Yeah, that's the only reason they're doing this is because they can't have a crowd. It's not at the stadium. They're going to be at the Performance Center and multiple locations.
It's the only way to work around the restrictions.
Right. That's the other thing. We don't know if between now and then. Heck, by the time you hear this, Florida might be under a shelter-in-place order. So
give them props.
Possible.
Give them props for being able to be creative and the wrestling community doesn't like to give them enough credit sometimes, but in this case, they're being extremely creative with getting around everything to try to make this happen.
Look, my hat's off to both WWE and AEW for
even
finding ways to still produce content that wrestling fans can consume on a weekly basis. So, but as far as WWE goes, so the matches will take place in multiple locations, so not just the Performance Center. One of those matches that was announced on Monday night, we knew that it was going to be AJ Styles taking on Undertaker. By the way, since this is Tuesday, March 24th, a very happy birthday to Austin's own and huge Longhorn fan, The Undertaker, 55 years old.
Oh, I thought you had like the little gong thing to play.
No,
and I was like, expecting The Undertaker just to pop out and then pop back out.
But Undertaker, AJ Styles has, the match is going to happen, but now apparently it's going to be what AJ Styles called a boneyard match. So, of course, my question, What in the blue hell is a boneyard match?
Well, let's say one thing first. Aren't you excited that we are getting a match that we haven't seen before?
I don't know, because I don't know what a boneyard match is. It could be...
I'm guessing this takes place like at a graveyard?
Well, and that's, I think, the theory going around right now is that it's a graveyard match, but they don't want to say graveyard because of the current circumstances regarding COVID-19. So they're using boneyard instead of graveyard. Again, that's a theory that has been floated around different media outlets. I don't know. But we do know it's going to happen. So, sure. Maybe we'll find out next week on Raw. You know, that'll be the Raw before Mania. So, we'll see.
Whatever it is, and again, they're working under very strict limitations. I'd be interested to see if they can make this a movie quality style match.
Funny you should say that. Okay, so let's. So one of the other things that has come out, I'm not sure if WWE's confirmed this, but it's well known, and there's been multiple reports and everything that. So not only are these matches going to take place in multiple locations, WWE is actually taping, I think, all of the WrestleMania matches in advance. Which again, good idea, because again, you may not be able to bring people in.
Exactly.
So, good idea. So we'll see, and because it's closed set, the likelihood of spoilers is very low, so that's good. So we'll be surprised.
Who knows? They could have filmed multiple endings.
So now, one of the things that's been said is John Cena versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt is apparently going to get a full movie treatment.
Nice.
So this will be probably akin to Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt back in a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Except this might go a little beyond that. We'll see. Here lately they've been showing classic matches like Friday night on SmackDown. They showed John Cena Bray Wyatt from WrestleMania 30.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see what happens with that.
Now, can we all take a moment here?
Yes.
And you need to tell me, what does Chad think about having to see WrestleMania on ESPN? What do you fans out there think about that?
Okay, so Chad Hastings, our good friend from Shirts and Skins with Chad and Trey, weekdays 12 to 3 on the Horn. The Horn has gone into what we're calling Phase 2 protocols, which basically means, if you've been listening, all the shows are coming from 2 or 3 different locations.
Just like WrestleMania.
Yes. That includes Chad Hastings. So Trey Elling is back at the Horn Studio because he's producing as well as co-hosting. Chad Hastings has been sitting right here in the Sports Guys Talking Wrestling World Headquarters.
And you guys
he likes to call it the Stu Studio.
Which I think is brilliant, by the way.
We're also calling it the Horn North Austin Annex. So.
It's like, how can you not call this place the studio?
The studio. I don't, because I like Sports Guys Talking Wrestling World Headquarters better. I don't know. Anyway, so yes, these will be taped all over, throughout the week. One of the matches they have made. Let me go back to Andrade and.
Well, wait, did Chad hate this or not?
Yes. By the way, he's not a fan of.
I was like, I need the payoff.
He likes that different worlds thing.
I know he does. That's why I think
he's not
great.
a fan. But apparently, it did good numbers.
It was like one of the highest rated things they had.
It did really good numbers on Sunday night. So, by the way, WrestleMania 32 at Jerry World.
Why would they show that one?
Because it was Jerry World.
But why would they show it? It's a horrible, horrible WrestleMania. That's because we were there.
Because it was Jerry World. That's why.
It is not a fun WrestleMania to watch.
Anyway,
they should have showed 31.
Angel Garza and Andrade, they are in a tag team because apparently the expected program was going to be Andrade versus Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
The Wrestling Observer has reported that not only Rey Mysterio but also Dana Brooke are under quarantine right now.
Understandable.
So, first of all, best wishes to them. As far as we know, they don't have the virus. It's a matter of they may have gotten exposed to it, and they're in quarantine just to make sure. So, So because of that, they can't be on the show because remember Dana Brooke was also in this 6-pack challenge.
That's right.
For the SmackDown Women's title.
I mean, the part that sucks is that you're just missing WrestleMania.
Yeah. The weirdest WrestleMania ever. And that includes 32 that we were at. But anyway, so that's why we are going to see Andrade and Angel Garza challenge the Street Profits for the Raw Tag Team titles.
Which I think is going to be a fantastic match.
Should be a great match. The other one, again, now this is probably for different reasons. They announced this on Monday. Bobby Lashley with Lana facing not Rusev, Aleister Black. Just out of the blue.
I'm down.
It'll be a fine match, but there's nothing to build up to it.
Nothing.
It's just
you don't always need a storyline, and especially for right now, you don't get a pass. You're not going to give people a pass considering what's going on. Okay, Stu, here's the storyline. There was a coronavirus, and we can only get these two guys to get on the card.
This isn't because Rusev is being quarantined. This is because Rusev's negotiations with WWE aren't going well.
Yeah.
So he's being kept off TV right now.
Understandable.
So, by the way, speaking of Rusev, before we go to break, Rusev, even though he may not be with WWE much longer, he's still helping. So he has pledged $20,000 to help the off-camera staff. So production crew, backstage people.
I'm telling you, man, he's one of the good guys.
He is. For that, we're going to proclaim this Rusev Day. Rusev Day is today. So, best wishes to Rusev. It's going to be an interesting WrestleMania, to say the least. And I think we will try to pull off a watch-along on YouTube. It might be where it's me on one night, then all of us on another night, or maybe we do Splicker. Or if you want to come over both nights, we'll do it both nights.
Well, we'll have to see.
Well, let's see what's happening. So, but yeah, you're right. We'll see. We'll do something. We'll pull off something.
I was going to say, watch parties this coming year aren't supposed to be a thing.
Well, we can gather if it's less than 10.
No.
Yeah, you can gather less than 10.
I thought the new guidelines just said that.
Well, shelter in place, but
Shelter in place, but they said, no gatherings.
We're in the communications field, so we're an essential. We're essential.
We must watch. We must get together to watch this WrestleMania for you.
Content.
We're doing it for you.
It's content. So, when we come back from this timeout, Dark Side of the Ring Season 2 premiere is happening. And I had a chance to talk to Evan Husney, one of the executive producers and the writer for that great series. You'll hear that conversation coming up next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Hey, this is WWE Hall of Famer from the Legion of Doom, Road Warrior Animal, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. What a rush.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons. We have talked about it forever. Dark Side of the Ring, one of the best TV shows out there on Vice TV. This week, their season 2 premiere. Season 1 was an absolute smash hit. Season 2 is no doubt going to be just like that. The premiere episode, talking about Chris Benoit murder-suicide. Joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, he's one of the executive producers, and he is the writer for Dark Side of the Ring. Evan Husney. Follow him on Twitter, at Evan Husney, and you can follow everything with Dark Side of the Ring at Dark Side of Ring on Twitter. Evan, how are you, man?
Good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for giving us some of your time. I want to kind of let's go to the series itself. What led to the birth of this series? Because this has been one of the biggest hits as far as wrestling programming goes. This has been one of the biggest hits in recent memory.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, it started with my friend Jason Eisner, who works on the show with me. We created this together. We've been friends for over 10 years, and we come from the film world, but we bonded together over our love of wrestling that extends like far back into our childhood. And so, life kind of took us to different places. He directed feature films, and I was working at Vice. I was just producing, web documentaries at Vice, and they were starting a TV channel. And we had just, like Jason and I had just kind of re-immersed ourselves in wrestling content. We were watching like shoot interviews like crazy and passing them around, and that's how we stumbled across the Bruiser Brody story. And that just was a huge eye opener for us, because it was like, wow, this is a wild, nuanced story with a lot of different elements here. And it felt really ripe for rediscovery, and it felt like something we could really, sink into. And the kind of idea for it was like, if we covered that story, and we took our inspiration, which was from this like seminal documentary film called The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris, and we're like, what if we told like stories from the wrestling world, kind of in the stylish framework of The Thin Blue Line, and really elevated it to be something just beyond. And so, because we really hadn't seen wrestling get that kind of a treatment. So that was kind of the idea, and then we kind of embarked on it just thinking we would do one, just that we would do this Bruiser Brody documentary, and that would be it. And then, of course, we pitched it to the channel, and then they were like, well, do you have any other stories you could cover? And then we just kind of put it together, and like, yeah, wrestling isn't there are no shortage of fascinating stories in that world. So we just put it together, and we shot the Bruiser Brody thing as a pilot in 2017, and then a couple months later, after it was finished, we were off to the races doing season 1, and now we're here for season 2.
The Bruiser Brody episode was so fascinating, and I knew a lot. I had heard some of the stories, and ironically,
right,
last year, so we are partners with the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls, Texas, and we had Abdullah the Butcher there because he was getting inducted. And we talked about that. We talked about that episode about Bruiser Brody, and it was interesting to hear. I mean, he kind of repeated some of the same stuff that he'd said in the documentary. So it was kind of fascinating to watch that. Season 1 was absolutely just it was incredible with the Bruiser Brody documentary. Here in Texas, we hit home big time with the Von Erich episode as well as the Gino Hernandez episode. Yeah. Was there something that surprised you doing those season 1 episodes, something that came out that maybe you didn't expect to find out?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I would say there's two big ones. One was, it's definitely a nuanced one, but when we were doing the Montreal Screwjob episode, obviously a story that's been told many, many, many times before, but it was a story we wanted to highlight because we did engineer, this whole show to be accessible for people who aren't, major wrestling fans like us. And it is an important story in the history of wrestling. And it really helps non-wrestling fans understand how the business kind of works behind the scenes and what it means to be a champion and everything like that. So that's why we did it. But we weren't expecting, Jim Cornette, who's a regular on season 1 and 2, we didn't expect him to kind of use that as his opportunity to be like, all right, well, I was the person that pitched the actual spot, the actual compromising position that Brett was put in, in order to get the title off of him. So that was his first time he had aired that out to the world, which was really cool. And I didn't know that when we flew all the way out there to interview him. So that was cool. The other one is a slightly bigger in scale, but just was the entire Gino Hernandez episode. We kind of went into that episode hoping that, there would be a story there, because we basically went into it just knowing the rumor and innuendo behind the way that he died. I mean, many people thought it was a drug overdose, but then some people thought it was a homicide. And so, it's tough to go into like a documentary just based on a rumor, but that's kind of what we did. And then to our surprise, we just found that, wow, that story, the rabbit hole was much, much, much deeper than we had ever hoped. And every day in the office, it felt like, some new little detail was being discovered. It was a pretty exciting time.
I can agree with that, especially the Gino Hernandez one. I remember when he passed away, and then I've heard stories from a lot of the veterans that were there at the time, and I'll be honest, personally, I do think he was murdered. I think there's just too much there to think this was just a simple overdose. Talking with Evan Husney, the executive producer and writer for Dark Side of the Ring. Let me ask you this: do you have a favorite moment from season 1? Mine personally, during the Von Erich episode, I had heard, I know all the stories about how all the boys died and everything, and I've seen just about every interview Kevin has done, and that was that episode. That was the first time I'd actually seen Kevin Von Erich actually break down in front of a camera talking about his brothers.
Right.
Was there something that spoke to you?
Well, that whole experience, the whole experience of being with Kevin, was actually my top moment from last season, because we actually didn't intend to do an episode on the Von Erichs originally. It's kind of hard to imagine now, because it's probably one of my favorite episodes that we've done. But the thing is that we're just going to talk to him for the Gino story. And then, it was like, well, he lives all the way out in Hawaii. Let's make the trip worthwhile, and maybe we should tell his story, even though it had been told so many times before. But we thought the way that we should do it is we should go out on his turf and, on his compound, and spend a really good amount of time with him, which we did. We spent about 2.5, 3 days with him. And it was amazing because he's so welcoming, so warm, such a great guy. And his family was amazing, and he was surrounded by them, and it was just a great, protective force around him, and just seeing him being one with nature and everything. It was just a really overwhelming experience. And I felt like what really helped in terms of, Kevin, is we went pretty deep into everything. And it was just, I think the experience of being around his family. And literally, I had his son Marshall, sitting next to me during the interview, helping, with prompting Kevin on certain things, and then also, Marshall knew a lot about the story. He's definitely talked to his dad a lot about what's happened. And Marshall was kind of prompting me on some things that I might not even know. So that was really helpful. And I think just the dynamic of having a family kind of coming together to help Kevin and to help tell him the story, I think is what kind of made it just a little extra more, emotional than it would be otherwise.
You're absolutely right. Ross and Marshall, both just fantastic young men. I've had the opportunity to talk to them on several occasions, be with them at different shows, and it is so great. I'm so proud of them and what they do for their dad, and it's amazing watching them. Yeah. They were at a Major League Wrestling show up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it was the two of them and Kevin. And to hear that crowd, you would have thought it was 1985 back in the Sportatorium. It was so fantastic.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So
cool.
let's
I love those guys.
I know they're fantastic. Let's go to the season 2 and the premiere episode. Chris Benoit. So many emotions that came back watching that, and the anger and the sadness and confusion and just everything. What was your biggest concern putting this episode by itself together with all the different stories and just the absolutely tragic way that this story turned out?
Well, for me, one of the things was, obviously when you have a show that explores these types of stories in this world, it's hard to ignore the Chris Benoit story. Being that it was just it was so majorly covered. And so it was something always in the back of our minds that we wanted to explore for season 1, but I'm so glad we didn't, because we just weren't even ready for something this massive. And going into it for season 2, I think the main reason that we really felt like it was important to retell was because we felt that there was so much of that story that was kind of unexplored from a processing point of view, because the story became so taboo. It became the thing you just can't even talk about, and people in the industry feel like they can't talk about, and it just didn't feel like there weren't any constructive conversations happening around it. When I think there are a lot of things, some positives and things that we can learn from this and also empathize with as well, which I think was another thing we were seeing online that was geared towards some of the people that you're seeing in this show. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to try and put together the show really from an empathetic point of view, with getting all the people that this affected the most, or trying to get all of the people that this affected the most, and the kind of getting them together and having them just talk about their experience. And one thing we found in doing that is we really found that they wanted to share their story. Like, they had kind of kept this aside for so long, and there wasn't really that platform to really express their complex feelings on it, because it's all very complicated. It's a very complicated story. Like, I can't even imagine putting myself in those shoes of like knowing somebody who had committed that crime, thinking I knew somebody, well enough, and then seeing what happened, and trying to process that and come to terms with that, especially if that was your friend, if that was your brother-in-law, or if that was your father in some cases. And so that to us we found that this was something that people wanted to finally talk about and kind of be closing the book on it a little way, but also having like an effective catharsis afterwards. And so in doing that, it was like we could only tell it if it was from that point of view, rather than kind of digging up old wounds just for sensational purposes, and I think that we achieved that with the episode.
Talking with Evan Husney, the executive producer and writer for Dark Side of the Ring. Catch it on Vice TV. It's on every Tuesday night now, right? Starting this week, every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central on Vice TV. And you're right. One of the themes that it seemed to carry was how the living victims of what Chris did, how it affected them, and in particular, David Benoit, Chris's older son, as well as Nancy's sister, Sandra. Real quick, the rest of season 2, you've got everything from the death of Owen Hart to New Jack from ECW to the Road Warriors, which, in my mind, the greatest tag team of all. Without letting anything out of the bag, give us a little, like a nugget of something to get excited about, besides the simple fact these are just fantastic stories told by some fantastic people. Give us a little something to watch for as season 2 continues. Yeah,
I'll give you one quick, big one, and then one quick for the fans. Actually, maybe two. The Owen Hart episode, I think, is going to be the one that is going to be the most fascinating outside of the Benoit episode, of course, is really because, this is a perspective on the story that I don't think anyone's really gotten in depth, especially on camera. And the fact that, Martha Hart and her children basically came together to want to tell this story, and then getting their whole perspective on it is definitely one of the things we want to look for, because that is just really, really emotional, really moving. And I think to the fans, obviously there are some stories, some names that you're familiar with that are in season 2, but I don't think, because I certainly wasn't, and I consider myself to know a thing or two about wrestling, but I really didn't know much about the UWF and Herb Abrams, which was an ill-fated wrestling company started by a wrestling fan in the late 80s, early 90s that turned out to be a spectacular disaster. And this episode, day by day, because we're just putting the finishing touches on it, is really shaping up to be fascinating. So for those that like the Gino Hernandez episode, one that's kind of more, a deeper cut, shall we say, this Herb Abrams episode is definitely going to be that for season 2.
Excited for all of it. He is Evan Husney. He is the executive producer and the writer for Dark Side of the Ring. Catch it Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central on Vice TV. Follow him on Twitter at Evan Husney. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Dark Side of Ring. Evan, thank you so much for your time. All the best to you. Looking forward to the rest of season 2.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely wonderful stuff from Evan. And of course, by now you've seen it. Hopefully, you've seen the 2-hour episode. Just takes you through every emotion from the tragic events that happened in 2007. And I look forward to seeing the next episodes. When we come back from this timeout, got a few notes from New Japan Pro Wrestling. They've got some postponements as well as Impact Wrestling. But a little bit of positive news out of Impact Wrestling. We'll cover that next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
Undeniable. Forever. Hey guys, this is Tessa Blanchard, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the horn. Stu Myrick, Justin Smash Simmons, special 2-hour Super Show edition. You just heard the current Impact Wrestling World Champion, Tessa Blanchard. Unfortunately, her next title defense, her next pay-per-view title defense, is being postponed. Impact Wrestling announced on Monday they are postponing their April 19th Rebellion pay-per-view. That was going to take place at Terminal 5 in New York City. The main event was going to be Tessa defending the world title against Michael Elgin and Eddie Edwards. That'll be interesting whenever that happens.
I was going to say, that sounds like it's going to be brutal.
They had another event on April 17th that they postponed, and their TV tapings on the 24th and 25th of April in Columbus, Ohio. So they've still got stuff in the can, I think, through at least next week, maybe the week after, and then after that, we may be seeing some classic Impact Wrestling. We will see what happens. One positive, last week's Impact Wrestling episode ended with the announcement that friend of the show, Ken Shamrock, is getting inducted into the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Very cool.
So congratulations. That will happen during Bound for Glory weekend in October. They played this highlight video. It included, apparently they got permission, included clips of his WWE career, complete with Jim Ross and Triple H.
Oh, wow.
On commentary.
Interesting.
So that was kind of weird hearing Triple H on Impact programming.
Well, I guess it's nice to see them kind of pay them back for letting them use other materials for their movies and videos and stuff that they put on network recently.
All the stuff with AJ Styles and Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
So it makes,
So it's nice to see that although they're the big company that, like, in certain instances, and I know it's kind of like a trade-off, at least they're willing to do business with these promotions that you would think that they would be more looking to poach than to do business with.
You wonder how long before he's inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. It's got to happen soon.
Yeah, I was wondering that as well, because you put in somebody like Jushin Thunder Liger to the WWE Hall of Fame.
Who had one match, and that was in NXT.
Which I'm okay with, though. Because technically speaking, he worked WCW a few times, too. And that's now WWE, technically, right? But Shamrock's one of those guys that was wrestling, in UFH? Or UHF?
UWFI.
Yeah. He was,
right, in Japan?
No. He was wrestling Pancrase.
Oh, Pancrase, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Pancrase. Not Pancrase is what's inside you.
But he was wrestling there. That's where he kind of started, where it was like shoot style, but still pro wrestling. And he was already wrestling on the California scene before he even got into mixed martial arts, so to speak. So yeah, that guy's been tried and true throughout the pro wrestling business his whole life. So
he has.
So if anybody deserves to be in, it would be somebody like him.
Still feel those shivers when Tom Lawler suplexed him into that couch during the Ultimate Bar Brawl a couple years ago, or last year in Atlanta. Man, I'm so glad he was okay, because then he came on Radio Row and enjoyed talking to several radio stations, including us. So, one other thing, New Japan Pro Wrestling, they have canceled their Sakura Genesis event scheduled for March 31st and their Road to Dontaku event scheduled for April 11th. So right now, no New Japan Pro Wrestling through at least mid-April. We will see what happens, because I know China has announced that they are going to start lifting restrictions in the Wuhan province, which is where that was kind of the epicenter of the world of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah,
and they're going to start. So maybe Japan might start. I know Pro Wrestling Noah's ran a show. I think Stardom has ran a show as well. Maybe an empty arena show, but I think they ran. Of course, now we got the 2020 Olympics postponed a year. So,
but I was going to say that Korea was hit pretty hard at first, and they did a really good job of stomping the curve.
Yeah,
stomping the curve. What were you supposed to flattening the curve?
They
should say stomp the curve.
I agree. Stomp the curve.
Yeah.
Why not? Just stomp it. Don't forget flatten. Just stomp it.
Just stomp it. The best way to do that is by staying home.
What's that? What was the pay-per-view? Had the boot print?
Oh,
Stomping Grounds.
Stomping Grounds. See, it all writes itself. That's our new shirt.
The big brute print with the SGTW logo?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
It makes no sense, but
coming to Pro Wrestling Tees, maybe. So anyway, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I know they're still got the on sale event for Wrestle Dynasty that's going to happen at Madison Square Garden in August. I would love. I mean, I would love to go to that. I may see if I can find a way there. We'll see.
Well, hopefully it happens. I was trying to say that there's pro basketball starting to be played again in Korea after this whole thing broke out. So they're going to be without fans for a little while, but hopefully this is kind of like the start to getting back to normal for the world in general.
Yeah, I think you're right. So anyway, hey, guess what? We've got a second hour coming up. So when we come back at the top of the hour, we got to talk some AEW because they're running as well. They've had some developments, and we got to let you know what's happening there. Plus, next hour we'll get to talk to a good friend of ours, one of our oldest friends, Godzilla Jax Dane, the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and his War Kings tag team partner, Crimson. We'll talk to them. All that and more coming up in the next hour. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling right here on the Horn.
This is the Natural Dustin Rhodes, and you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling right here.
I love that. I love that music. Love that music. So good. Such good stuff. Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Second hour. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. And look who's on the phone joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline. The man behind that music, or the man that comes out to that music, he is our good friend, the Natural. We're just gonna make him the proxy co-host. You're Dustin Rhodes. You are now the proxy co-host of Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
The proxy co-host.
Yes.
I like it.
All right, so there you go. So how you doing, D?
Good, man. It took me a while to come up with that music and get it just right with Ruckus. I mean, he's really talented, and he put that thing together for me to just what I wanted, and it sounds pretty kick-ass.
I couldn't agree more. I get pumped. So, let's talk.
Can I just ask him really quickly, because it's so coincidental that we get a chance to talk to you, because earlier today, and I don't like to cross the promotions, especially now that you're in AEW and stuff, but we were watching some of your stuff from the WWE days. And this came to mind. I just wanted your opinion on this. Don't you think that Jim Johnston needs to go into the WWE Hall of Fame? Because I think your Goldust theme back then was probably one of the best, if not the best, entrance theme during that initial period.
Yeah, I think so, man. Jim put together some great music over the years, and I definitely think he should be put in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what the situation is with the company and Jim Johnston, but shit. Anybody who's made a name for themselves like he has and with such iconic music, yeah, I definitely think they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
I think maybe that'll be something I talk to Cowboy Johnny Mantell. Maybe we see if we can get him in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Well, hell yeah,
up in Wichita Falls. So have you been up there? Have you been up there yet?
I want to go in the Hall of Fame. Not the WWE Hall of Fame, the actual Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Well, okay. We need to get you up there because Johnny has been begging for you to come up. So
where is that at exactly again?
Wichita Falls. We got to do. Yeah, we got to do. It's a drive, but one of these weekends we may have to make a road trip, and I know Johnny would be thrilled.
Either that, or I'll get us just a private jet, and we'll fly up there real quick.
If TK wants to join us, I'm sure that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're going to miss the kolaches in West, but
Well,
I guess sacrifices can be made.
We can find kolaches. So
I can make kolaches.
Yeah,
can you?
Just get a piece of bread and a little sausage.
Yeah,
okay.
I make pepperoni rolls.
I wasn't sure. I mean, they call you the Natural. I thought that extended to more than just in-ring work and promo work. I was like, well, maybe you're a chef as well, and this is something you haven't promoted yourself about yet.
Do you know what my wife cooked tonight that I had for the first time ever, which was Mexican street corn?
Really?
Oh, first time elote?
Unbelievable. That is the greatest corn I've ever had in my life. I could have just eaten that as a meal in itself.
Oh, hell yeah.
Unreal.
I love corn, and yeah, Mexican street corn. That's tasty. It is really tasty.
Good.
But in all your travels, first time?
That is the first time I didn't know that existed, actually.
Wow.
And she bought it at Costco.
Yeah.
I was like, we had steak tonight because all the kids were in town because they shut down all their businesses. So we got a full house over here, and it was steak, scalloped potatoes, and that street corn, man. Holy moly.
That's a game
I was
changer.
going to say,
It is a game changer.
wow, that sounds awesome.
You know that's right, J-Dog.
Oh, we had this discussion. Yes, you're
J-Dog and
I'm
D-Dog.
telling you, one of these days we'll book it.
Your wife is an absolute gem. You outkicked your coverage on that one, right?
What's that?
You outkicked your coverage on that one, right?
Why?
Because she's a gem. She's
you know
an absolute
what?
gem.
It took me a couple wives.
I know.
To get to this third one, but this third one has been the greatest gift to ever come into my life.
She's a sweetheart. She is an absolute sweetheart.
Let me ask you, Dustin, how has this whole COVID-19 thing affected you in your day-to-day life? Obviously, not being able to wrestle on the regular right now, and that's shut down, but people have been interested to know what their favorite pro wrestlers have been doing throughout this whole period of time.
I tell you what, and it comes down to the stay-at-home law tonight at midnight for Williamson County. But with the gyms closed and all that, I got on Facebook and I bought me an elliptical.
Nice.
And I've been going to Academy every day. Every day. And I don't know why. I just go in there to walk around.
I do that sometimes. I'll look at camping equipment or fishing equipment. I keep telling myself I'm gonna start fishing again. I want to go.
I mean, Dick's is closed, so
Yeah.
it's like Academy is always open, right?
Yeah.
And HEB, and I finally got some toilet paper today, which I was really, really proud of myself for that, and paper towels. I was like, oh hell yeah!
All
I
right,
already have enough, but I was like, I'm grabbing this sumbitch.
you struck gold.
I did.
No pun intended there.
Oh man, talk with Dustin Rhodes.
I pulled up in the parking lot and I saw people wheeling out toilet paper, and I was like, there was a line to get in, they're letting them in by tens or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess I can stay in line for 5-10 minutes. And it wasn't like 10 minutes long. And I went in there and made a beeline for the toilet paper, and they were almost out again. And I grabbed it, but it was you only allowed one. And I was like, damn it. I just wanted to buy them all.
I was telling Justin earlier, so the Horn's using my studio as kind of a north annex, and so we did the midday show from here, and Chad Hastings brought me a couple rolls of toilet paper as kind of payment for using the studio. So I feel better now.
At least we're all going to have clean ass.
That's right. That's right. May not have much else, but at least we'll have a clean ass. I was watching Dynamite last week, and I tell you what, why hadn't been done before, but seeing the roster on each side, and you were out there with SCU and Colt and the guys. I don't know what it was, just that little something added so much to that show, it was really good. But having you guys out there just elevated it even more. Was that a call from the very beginning, or did someone say, hey, we should have guys out there? Well, I mean, tell me how that transpired.
Well, we knew it was going to be a different thing, just going into the production meetings and things, and the way Tony worked it put some of the talent just so we could spread out some people, and then they had the coaches over here. And they weren't allowed to come into the arena until their match. And, mine and QT's match was the very first thing. So it was still daylight out when we started the show. And we didn't have anybody out there. It was just us having our match, and it's really weird. It really is weird. You know, you're playing to the cameras, and you're waiting for reactions from fans. You know, and it's that energizes you, and when that element is taken away from you, it's very different, and you got to put on your acting chops. And it's just it was a very different thing, but it was a lot of fun, and it was it was a lot less stressful in a sense because you weren't out there in front of people listening to them. You know, you just kind of went out there and we had fun in our match, and the show went on after that, man. And just, I believe we knocked one out of the park. You know, when you put 2 or 3 guys on the babyface side and some heels on the other side, and then you have the matches, it added to them because we can cheer or we can, you know, boo the heels, you know, and things like that. So it gave them a little bit of oomph in their match to, you know, perform a little better.
Yeah.
Our television audience, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think we hit a home run with it. And I'm anxious to see, because now they're even going to a really shorter roster for this week. So I'm off this week. I might be on next week, hopefully for sure. But I'm anxious to sit at home tomorrow and watch it, you know, and see what they do tomorrow. It should be good. You know, it went good the first week, so hopefully this week it'll be even better. And then, you know, hopefully sooner rather than later we can get back to a regular kind of schedule and everybody gets well and all healed up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Talk for a second about, because something I've mentioned a lot is with this situation is, you know, how matches are structured where, you know, fan reaction kind of drives how the match flows. Talk for a little bit about the kind of the intricacies of that and where the psychology of a match works in relation to a fan reaction, and that's why this is, you know, this current situation is just so foreign to what we know in pro wrestling.
Well, it's up to me and Jericho and the leaders of the locker room to kind of guide them through that. And I think we did a good job. But that being said, when you go out there and there's nobody in the audience and you are wrestling your match, basically you're cold, you're not energized, you don't have the adrenaline. You got to get yourself there. You have to build yourself up like there is people out there, you know, and when you're usually playing to the audience, now you have to play to your opponent. And that's probably the big difference in people and no people is now, instead of me getting hyped up with the audience, I will either look at the people at home or I'll look at my opponent and get hyped up and just talk smack to them. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is the most important thing on how to bring out the best television we can now without an audience, you know, until all this stuff subsides and we get over it like we always do, you know.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different, man. It's a first. It's a first for me, for sure, for 32 years. And
that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to ask you, D-Dog. It was one of these things where you've had this long, illustrious career and you continue to add to that. But can you kind of look back and think, besides wrestling in front of nobody this last time out, what was the smallest crowd that you've wrestled in front of?
You know, my first match in '88 was in Palatka, Florida, in front of 12 people. And probably the first year, they were anywhere between 10 and 30, 40 people max. And, you know, you got to learn how to communicate with your opponent a little quieter when there's so much silence in the arena. And you have to, you know, just kind of play to what you got, man, and kind of just grow with it. But the main thing about our company, man, is AEW is we're putting smiles on faces when they're sitting at home right now, when they're confused, when they're scared about what is going on and scared if they're going to get sick. And they turn on the TV, man, and we can enlighten them for 2 hours. And we can put out our best selves for them, for the fans, because that's why we do it. We love the fans, you know. We want to perform. We love doing this job that we're in, you know, this professional wrestling, which it's not a job if you love it, and I love it. Otherwise, I'd have retired a long time ago. And it's fun when they, on social media with how big it is now today, that we get instant feedback from it, that, man, what a show you are putting on, and it's not even over yet. It's just like minute by minute, like play by play almost. And it's they're letting us know that we're doing a good job, and they let us know when something needs to be picked up. And we usually do that. And we try to better ourselves each week. And we're just continuing to gradually get better and better and better, man. And it's fun to be a part of, and fun to start with this company from the ground up and watch this thing take off. And I'm just having the time of my life, man. It's not like I look forward to going to work. I was sad because I wasn't going to work this week. And it's when you're feeling that way about a company, I want it all. I want to be a part of that, man. And everybody is so passionate with us and so hungry to put out the very best that we can possibly get. We have some of the most special, wonderful, talented people on the roster, man, men and women, just incredible, talented kids. And I look at them and I'm like, God dang, man, I want to learn that move or something, And I'm 50 years old. I don't need to be doing all this flips and stuff like that. But there's a couple of things that I have learned along the way that these guys entrusted in me. And now I do them, and it's like, it's so easy, and everybody thinks, holy crap, Dustin just hit a destroyer. If I could have been doing this like way back in the day, man, I would have been doing it. I mean, it's two people trusting in each other, and it works magic, and it looks wonderful when done correctly.
I've told you, I've told you before in our conversations, you look younger now than you did even, a year and a half ago when we met. So you found that fountain of youth back there, man. I'm telling you, I can see it in your face. It's so fun to watch, and I know how much fun you're having.
Well, for years and years, I really second guessed myself and my abilities and just where I stood in the pro wrestling arena. And now I'm not doing that so much, and now I'm more at peace with what I'm doing, and I understand, and I've accepted that I'm 50, but it's like I'm still out there performing with these kids, man, and doing a damn good job at it, and I just hope it lasts for a little while longer, because I'm not ready. I'm not ready to hang it up just quite yet, man. I'm having the time of my life. They are making me feel young. I love teaching our girls on our classes every single week. They love it. I love teaching these promos with the kids. And I love it when they keep me busy. When I'm busy and I'm doing a lot, it's so much fun backstage. It is. I do so much backstage that people just don't realize and understand, other than just the talent wrestling in the ring in front of people thing, I think I'm really excelling backstage in my interactions with our talent and teaching them and listening to them, becoming like a father figure in a sense to some of them. And I think they're respecting that and respecting me. And I love that about them. And I respect them if they respect me. And they ask me constantly for ideas and ways to fix things and how to cut this promo. And that to me is the reward that I've always wanted, that I'm getting now. That's rewarding to me. The wrestling is great, and that I could still do it, but the other stuff is the thing that I'm really sinking my teeth in and love to death right now.
Would you say some of that backstage performance is kind of starting to spill over into your in-ring performance? I know that you're talking about everything that you do backstage now, but it's kind of like if we kind of take a look back at your whole career from the Natural, from Goldust to the TNA run, it kind of seems like this might be the most well-rounded iteration of Dustin Rhodes that we've ever seen. Do you kind of feel that you're kind of, even at this age, that you're kind of like being your best performer days, you still have a few left in there?
My life has been ups and downs, and there was a time when I literally was in hell, and I dug myself out, and I'm just playing catch up from that. But here being at AEW, once I left WWE, it was like a veil lifted. And to be around these kids and these grown men and women, which I just call kids, they're my kids because I'm so much older than them. There's no yelling. There's no, you're doing this wrong. Gosh dang it, you're running the company. You're doing this. There's none of that. It is so caring and giving and wonderful here, man. It's just, it is something else. And that has affected my life, and it's affected me, and to where I've become more self-confident and more positive about everything. And that in turn shows in my work, and it shows that I'm happy, you know, and I can't wait to go to work. I can't wait to talk about things. And, you know, after my matches, you know, I'll call my wife from the road, and it's like, man, I go off on a tangent on how special it was to me, you know, and it's weird, but wrestling's always been special to me. But I think right now, 2019, 2020, 2021, these are my true years that have made me the happiest. And I believe the next couple of years are going to really transcend itself for me personally in my life, in my family life, in my professional life. And man, it's an incredible feeling to feel wanted, you know, to feel wanted and not dejected and not like I got to sit on the bench. And even if I'm not working next week, just to be there around these kids to help them, because they're constantly coming up to me and asking for advice, asking for help. That means everything. Dude. That is needed. And that is the most special thing. I couldn't be any happier than I am right now.
I can hear the peace in your voice. That's how authentic it is, and I'm really happy for you, because I'm always searching for that in my life personally. But it's like to hear somebody have that's great. I'm so happy for you that you have that peace, man.
Yeah, I've watched that time and again with you backstage, and seeing everybody come up to you, and I see how it makes your eyes light up. It's really cool. Talk with Dustin Rhodes, real quick, Dustin. Let's talk the new additions to AEW. Brody Lee, the former Luke Harper, and Matt Hardy. The Broken Brilliance is coming to AEW. Talk for a second about seeing these two incredible wrestling stars joining All Elite Wrestling.
Man, this is pretty big to tag these two guys, you know, Matt Hardy and Brody. I've worked with both, and I've been around both for a lot of years. And they are some of the most talented guys in the professional wrestling industry. And to have them come aboard with AEW, it's going to be magical, especially with Matt and his videos and his creative ability to bring out a character or two characters or three characters or whatever he wants to do. It's going to be fun. I'm along for the ride. And Brody, he is genuinely one of the best workers I have ever been in the ring with. And he is so good at what he does. He really is. And he is, to me, very, very underrated as a talent and as a worker. He's incredible in the ring. And I cannot wait to see where he takes the Dark Order. And, you know, I'm just glad that they're here. And now this gives us two more people that they can plug me into and work with and have fun with, you know, because there's not anybody here right now that I'll step in the ring with and go, God, I just don't want to work with him. You know, I love it. It is unbelievable. I don't care who it is here. It is so special and such a special time to be in the business and to go head to head with WWE and to excel every single week and only get better. Man, I see in the next 3-4 years us being one of the biggest names in wrestling, you know.
I couldn't agree more. That promo that Brody cut, you know, introducing himself as the Exalted One, that was absolute gold. I mean, you know, we've heard snippets of what he could do with promos, you know, in his previous iteration, but seeing that and just you got to root for him. You want to see him do well, and he's got everything it takes to become a major star in AEW. He is the natural Dustin Rhodes. Follow him on Twitter at Dustin Rhodes. Dustin,
here's the thing real quick. Do we got time?
Yeah. Always got time for you.
here's the thing about characters that come into wrestling right now. It is still more than any time right now, very, very important that these kids come in and they tell their stories. And they are on a long leash here. And that's the good thing about it, that you can have some freedom of your expression, with your promos. And the more they practice with them and the more they feel comfortable with their promos, that's when you're going to see them excel. And I think that's the most important thing about a character, is to letting them be themselves. And me here helping them bring that out in themselves, because I know I don't want to crutch them. I know Cody doesn't want to crutch them. We want them to feel this character and to pitch it, and to find this character, and find it in promos and find it in the way you deliver something and the way you are acting with your facial expressions and whatnot to the people at home, so that they can feel it and they can get behind this character. Brody's doing a hell of a job with that. Matt has always done a hell of a job with that. Chris Jericho is doing a great job. Cody really stepped up with his promo work. He's doing great. One of his last promo last week, I went up to him and I said, man, I have watched you grow for so many years now, and that promo right there, you have gotten so much better. It was just a home run, and it just really put everything into perspective, how good he has become. And we have some guys that struggle, and some women who struggle with promos, but they're getting better. And sooner or later, they're gonna shine, and that's the most important thing.
They just got to find their voice.
That's right.
They got to find their voice. Dustin, as always, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Thank you, buddy.
Give everybody AEW our love. We love you. And yes, let's make this Wichita Falls trip happen. I know, like I said, Cowboy wants to see you so badly, see you up there. So we're going to have to find a time to do that and make that happen. But until then, all the best. Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Are you streaming anything on Twitch?
Oh yeah, you doing anything? You do? Oh, that's right. You had a Zelda question.
I forgot what it was now,
right.
but I was like,
Yeah.
but are you in? Like, you got that finished, right? You finished it all up and everything now, or are you still playing through?
I just got the expansion pack.
Oh, you just got the expansion pack.
The Dastardly expansion pack.
So it's not all bad.
I'm struggling with it. It's there's a couple of tough shrines that I cannot get through right now, and but they gave me this one hit weapon, man, that kills anything when you hit it one time. I love that thing.
Did you used to be a gamer like back in the day, or was
Never.
this like
I don't really play video games, but I fell in love with Zelda because it's easy for me to play. It's not the I don't know what they call it when you like the war games when the gun is in front of you, and it's just hard for me to control.
First person shooter thing.
The Zelda, man, is incredible.
But see, but it's amazing that you're like not a traditional gamer, yet you walked into, I feel like, one of the more complex games, and one of those games that you really have to put in a good 40 to 80 hours to really experience. And you're like, this is cool. It's just such a transition. I can't believe that you made it so smoothly.
Well, it's the world, I think, that made it kind of special. It looks so real, and you have so much to do and so much to unfold, and it takes a while, but it's like hours of fun, man.
So when the eventual AEW video game, because I feel someday it will happen, you're going to go back and play yourself? You never played yourself in any of the other video games at any other point in time?
I've tried that, and I just push a bunch of damn buttons, man. I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, that's the new YouTube series. Dustin, you're going to have to teach me how to play Zelda. You're talking to I'm a guy that has,
but I want people to pay to see that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Like I have to put in real work.
The comedy will be worth the price alone because you're talking to a guy that had problems with Pac-Man. So having more than one button in a joystick is just going to destroy me.
Well, yeah, me too, and that's what I thought. But this was a lot easier to play than I thought. And my daughter, Dakota, helped me out tremendously on this and on what to do, and my son Joshua. So they got me kind of set on my way, and now it's like second nature, man. I just push the buttons and I know which ones to go. But like anything like what's that new? What are those new war games?
Like Call of Duty?
Call of Duty?
Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah.
I'll fuss and I'll throw that thing against the TV.
Yeah, don't break your TV. We got football season coming up, so.
I know. I just got a new one, too.
Dustin, as always,
Yes,
all the best to you, my friend. Love you to death, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, love y'all too, man. Y'all be safe.
Oh, you never know what road you're going to go down when you're talking to Dustin Rhodes.
How many puns were you trying to get in there?
I don't know.
You've been good on the puns tonight.
Well, it's Dustin. It's
kind of weird.
It's that exuberant spirit. It gets into you.
No, when I said that he sounded happy, I wasn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really wasn't
No,
joking. I mean, you can literally hear it.
You're absolutely right. When you and again, we've been backstage. I've been privileged enough to be backstage with him when AEW was in Texas, and to see him interact with the girls and with the younger talent, you see an energy with him that is, it's just, it makes you smile. It really does. And I know how much he's loving it. I know he talks all the time about how much he loves doing the coaching. And so couldn't be happier for him. And we couldn't be happier that he's a good friend of ours and makes time for us. So when we come back from this timeout, a couple other friends will join us. One that we've known from the very beginning of this show, Godzilla Jax Dane, the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and his War Kings tag team partner, a new friend, Crimson, who has been working with the NWA here lately on NWA Power. We'll talk to them next on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn.
I am in the top 1%.
This is EC3, and you are listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling on the Horn. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons. One of the great things about this downtime is we get to reconnect with some old friends and make new friends.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that we're the top 1% because we're like the top 1% of shows that are still going besides everything else you hear on the Horn.
EC3 thinks that. He's our good friend. But we got a couple of guys that might top that. Joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina Hotline, let's start with our new friend, a former TNA World Tag Team Champion, great wrestling star, and now works a lot with the NWA. Crimson, how are you, man?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be joining you guys tonight.
It's a pleasure. And alongside him, this is an old friend. In fact, when I've often mentioned that Sports Guys Talking Wrestling would not be where we are if it weren't for guys like this gentleman. He was one of the very first, way back in 2016. We did commentary for him. You and I get to put our names alongside the likes of Soley and Ross as having called NWA World Heavyweight Championship matches because of this man. He is the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, our longtime friend. It has been way too long. Godzilla Jax Dane, what's up, man?
Oh, man, Stu, great to talk to you, man. Thanks for having us on. It's always a pleasure to talk as well-versed in not only wrestling but sports as you are. As kind of a human as you are, the great city of Austin, which I miss dearly. It's almost my home away from home. I spent 10 years there with you. And I just really appreciate you having myself and Crimson on, man. We got some really exciting things coming down the pipe and really just can't be grateful enough that you give us this time today. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. It's great to hear your voice again. Last time I saw you was a few months ago in College Station with Lions Pride Sports, Houston Carson's great promotion. You and I got to hang out, have a couple cold ones. It was so good to reconnect. Crimson, I want to start with you because, as I said, you're working with the NWA now, doing a lot of backstage producing and helping some of the young guys there on the roster. Just talk about that experience and how much you're enjoying that experience working with the NWA.
And before you answer that question for Stu, kind of lead us into how you got into this whole situation. Like, were you already thinking about production, or it was just like a natural segue?
Yes. So yeah, it's pretty it's a question that doesn't get asked too often. I don't do a lot of podcasts or interviews or anything at this point or this time, but I was injured, I'd say 2014 going into 2015, and recovering from pec surgery. I tore my pec major, and that was freshly off a knee surgery I had previously. So I was down and out, and realized right then and there, hey, look, my in-ring career is not going to last forever, so let me try and figure out what I can transition into within pro wrestling, because I love what we do. I love the industry, but I know in-ring can't last forever. So I started promoting events where I live outside of the Nashville area, actually in Clarksville, Tennessee. And that's where I just basically dove headfirst into live event production. And let's say that was 2015. So just, over a course of a few years, I consistently ran events, partnered with other promotions to run co-promoted events with Jeff Jarrett and Global Force at the time, a few years back. And I was fortunate enough to obviously partner with NWA. We produced a pop-up event, the very first one, and in Clarksville, which I helped promote. And then it was just basically just kind of a natural, I guess, path for me. I love the creative aspect. I just love producing. And once the NWA announced they're running television, they had asked me to basically help out behind the scenes. So very fortunate enough to have that relationship with Billy Corgan, Dave Lagana, and the NWA.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
NWA.
Stu?
Yeah, Jax.
Stu, he's not going to tell you this, but I will tell you this. He's really, really good at it too. It's almost, I love wrestling with him. He is a great tag team partner, but as soon as he's healthy from this shoulder incident that we've had, we'll be back working hard as a team. But I don't want to downplay how good he is at this producing stuff, man. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see Tried and True Pro Wrestling, Tried and True Pro out of Clarksville. But man, it's worth spending the money on to see it. And a matter of fact, Stu, I'd like to, once the dust all settles on this, maybe we can get you out to host your podcast from out there, something like that, because I'm going to tell you it's going to be like an independent event that you've probably never been to. The way it's structured, the way it's set up, the lighting, the production, the talent. I love my guys in Texas, and my guys in Texas are great, but my Tennessee are equally as great. And then when you put the production that goes into it, like Crimson pays attention to in detail, it's something really special, man. It's actually Tried and True is my favorite independent promotion to work for in the country. And he's not going to tell you all that because he's a lot more humble than I am, but I can say it for him. And I can say it for him, man. He's great to be in business with in all aspects.
Yeah, you guys, of course, make a great tag team in War Kings. I know you've been tearing it up in OVW, in Tried and True. I've seen some stuff from Tried and True. You're absolutely right, Jax. A fantastic promotion out of Tennessee. And yes, the NWA pop-up event. In fact, they just put that on YouTube. They just premiered it, so you can go out to NWA's YouTube channel, watch that. It was they had the hair match with Josephus and David Arquette. Of course, Tim Storm's involved with it. Y'all are involved with it. Just a fantastic promotion. Jax, let me ask you this, because as we were getting, before the whole shutdown and everything, they had just had NWA Power where you debuted. Looked like you were going to, fire up your old rivalry with Tim Storm. How much fun was that to get back kind of in the mix?
Let's be honest. Let's be honest, Stu. It's not much of a rivalry, man.
Well,
I've whooped his ass 10 out of 11 times. And the one time I lost to him, Rob Conway hit me with the belt. So
I know.
You can call it a rivalry. That's kind of like calling, what would it be? Maybe Texas and University of Texas and Houston a rivalry.
Yeah, you're right. I get you.
Come on, man. Treat me better than that.
I know. Oh, I know.
I think the world of Tim Storm as a person, man. He's great, but come on.
I'm glad to know that he's keeping track. That you're keeping track, though.
That's good. No, I agree.
Because they brought it to my attention.
Yeah, but yeah, it was. I mean, it was.
Come on, man.
I tell you what, though, it kind of got my juices going to see you two facing off on NWA Power. So. I look forward to whenever that continues. I look forward to seeing the continuation of that.
It was really cool to see something that we have been really privy to see here in Texas, and then get to see it play on a national level for everybody else to see it. And if you've been paying attention to the storyline, you're getting a nice little payoff right now. You know.
Yeah, Justin, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with how that all works itself out, man. It's something that I'm really proud of. I know Crimson is really proud of how that turned out, and I know Tim is really proud of it as well. And, I'm just giving you guys a hard time over Tim. He's one of the best in the world, and it was an absolute honor to lose the NWA World title to Tim Storm. Couldn't have lost it to a better person.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Talking with Jax Dane and Crimson, the War Kings, here on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
And let's take it away from the ring just a little bit. Let's admit we got this whole virus thing going on, right? It's affecting everybody's lives, and I have to ask you all because you guys are just two swole, big wrestlers. Like when you think pro wrestler, you think of the body of a pro wrestler. I think of guys that look like you. How are you guys handling all this? Because I know it's hard to go to the supermarket and probably get enough protein all in one bulk. I'm not sure if you were able to get the GNC before everything closed, or you have this mailed to your house. But I guess I'm assuming this is what our fans want to hear. Just how is this affecting your everyday lives?
Well, I can speak for myself, and Jax can testify as a witness to this that I'm losing my mind and my sanity over being isolated. Once my gym shut down, I started to panic. That's when it became real. I don't care about the toilet paper. I had plenty of that. A little upset about the eggs.
Yeah, it's hard to get eggs.
Shelf can't get eggs anywhere, but
he remodeled his bathroom. That's what he's having to do. He had to remodel his bathroom, man.
Wow.
Because he was losing his mind.
Yeah,
Wow.
dude, yeah. So I picked some projects out in the house that needed to get done for I don't know how many years.
What did you put in? What did you take out?
Me.
What was the renovation? What did you do? Put in tile. You replaced the bathtub.
You build a sauna inside in the bathroom now.
Look, Tim the Toolman over here. Look, I didn't really plan on diving into this tonight, but just full remodel, tile, paint, mirrors, double vanities.
Are you serious?
Just everything, man.
Wow. So, now I feel horrible about myself because I'm really going to pick up a hobby, learn some Spanish or something throughout this whole little break, and you remodeled your whole bathroom.
Well, yeah, you got to understand too. This is a promise I made a couple years back that I've been blowing off. So
I made the same promises.
I had no excuse at this point.
Yeah, I get you. All right, Jax. What?
Yeah, hey, I also dropped a few $100s on some at-home gym equipment.
Very good.
Scarce around town, so yeah, I should be all right.
I've been seeing a lot of pictures from a lot of wrestlers about they've decided it's time to invest in that home gym and everything. Jax, what have you been keeping up with?
Oh man, I got real lucky, man. I eat a lot of ground turkey. 93.7 ground turkey is pretty much a staple of my diet, and I was able to pick up about 30 pounds of that prior to everything going crazy. And I know that may sound a little bit like hoarding, but that'll last me 30 days, maybe more like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So, not really hoarding. I just eat a lot. But I was able to get my protein in and really no disruptions to my everyday life other than, like Crimson said, going to the gym, man. And now and for somebody like me and for him as well, we like to train like a traditional, more bodybuilder style. Go in, lift heavy weights, and now you're having to get a little more creative and get outside your box and do some things that you normally wouldn't do, which in all honesty is probably good for us. I mean, anytime you can diversify what you do, that's probably a little bit better. So, we'll make do, man. If this is the worst of our problems, then we're doing pretty good because there's a lot of people out there that are affected a lot worse than we are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Talking with Jax Dane and Crimson, the War Kings. Follow them on Twitter at @TheJaxDane and @Crimson. Before we let you go, one thing's that a lot of us that do wrestling radio shows and such, we want to make sure that you guys promote yourself, because especially independent wrestlers, it's without anybody running events. That means income is drying up a little bit. I know you guys have some other sources, but I do want to make sure you guys are promoting your online stores. So, Crimson, start with you. Tell folks how they can buy stuff, follow you besides Twitter, anything that we need to know to keep up with all the things that Crimson is doing.
Well, hey, I appreciate allowing me to be able to plug that stuff, because that does help. It does help with everyone kind of being on lockdown and stores being shut down and events being canceled. So I appreciate it. And yeah, I've got some merch available at territorywrestlingtees.com, and they do most of my merch, all of my merch, some of Jax's, and they've got some their own brand, which is a cool brand. And as I mentioned before, I run a wrestling promotion here in Tennessee called Tried and True Pro. If you go to the website, you can find all of our past events available to stream or download. And of course, that goes, that would help tremendously. And we've got some merch available too. So if you guys just check those out, I'd appreciate it. And hopefully when all this calms down and it passes, eventually we'll be able to continue our events and bring something strong to the table.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to get those links out on our Twitter page and everywhere. Jax, how can people get your stuff as well? And tell us how we can learn more about Godzilla.
Pretty similar to Crimson, Territory Wrestling Tees. They have some of our working stuff. My Jax Dane stuff, you'll see on the Collar and Elbow website pretty soon. They're changing their structure, and some of my T-shirts, my Country AF T-shirt and my Daddy is Home T-shirt, will both be available on Collar and Elbow here pretty soon. So, being affiliated with Al and Chad Miller and Gladiator Sports and OVW and Territory Wrestling Tees, feel pretty lucky to be a part of that. So that's where you can find it, man. We sure do appreciate you having us.
Hey, man, no, not a problem. Love you guys. Love Collar and Elbow. They've taken care of us in the past. So anything we can do. They are the War Kings, Crimson and Godzilla Jax Dane. Guys, thank you so much for giving us your time, man. All the best to you. We're going to connect again real soon and talk about the next Tried and True event when that's getting close, okay?
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Stu.
We love Jax Dane to death. And known him forever. He's taking such good care of us, and Crimson is as good as gold. And one of the greats that helps out in wrestling. So, great stuff. And we will post those links on our Twitter page at SGTWATX. So keep an eye out for that. When we come back from this timeout, we'll let you know what else is happening. A few other news and notes in the world of wrestling before we wrap up this super show, the Fight Night Takeover, as we like to call it. You're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, and you're listening to The Horn.
Shock the system.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Adam Cole, baby. And you're listening to Sports Guys Talking Wrestling.
Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, wrapping up this 2-hour takeover super show, whatever you want to call it. Stu Myrick, Justin the Smash Simmons.
I was trying to think of a cool name, but they're all taken. Nitro, Dynamite, Raw. They've already gone through Jacked, Heat.
Yeah. What's this?
Rampage.
Yeah.
Thunder has been done.
Power Pro.
Power Hour has already been done.
The Power Hour, yes.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, gotta get more creative.
So many of them. You heard Adam Cole, the NXT champion, there at the top of the show. So they have decided that the matches that were going to take place at NXT TakeOver Tampa will now be aired each week on the USA, on NXT on USA, starting April 1st.
Smart, and I'm okay with that.
Absolutely, because they can't have TakeOver.
Yeah.
So they're taping those right now as well at the Performance Center. So look forward to those Wednesday nights on NXT on USA.
Man, they really got a good jump on this, though. They foresaw that they were going to try to have some issues, and they've had good contingency plans in place.
And it makes sense. You're bringing the guys in anyway, so you might as well get in as much as you can out of them.
Yeah.
That way you've got content for the next few weeks.
I wanted to go back
AEW's going to do the same thing. So.
I wanted to go back and retouch on the whole Undertaker thing, though. Like, what type of Undertaker do you think we're going to see? Because now that he's in this Boneyard match, it's like, oh, I expect all the bells and whistles and all the magic and like the super darkest Undertaker possible.
I get this feeling we're going to have some sort of a
Return to the American Badass.
No, not all the way there. But we could see something maybe in the middle.
So a motorcycle will be involved.
I
wouldn't doubt it. Right?
I wouldn't doubt it one bit. Undertaker loves his motorcycle.
I was going to say motorcycle with a duster could work.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know how you keep the hat on. He's going to have some of that Indiana Jones duct tape or something.
Yeah, he may. So The Big Show, someone that Dustin Rhodes has worked with, The Big Show has a new series on Netflix called The Big Show Show. And we now have a premiere date, April 6th. The series will premiere on Netflix. I saw the trailer.
Now I wish you didn't say series. It would have been so much funnier if you would have went, Big Show has a new show called The Big Show Show.
Well,
Netflix.
That's kind of what I said, but
I know that's why. I saw what you're trying to do there.
But anyways, I saw the trailer. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, a real good, a great comedy. And we know Big Show has some great comedic chops. And this is going to be one of those really fun shows just to sit for half an hour or however long it's going to be and just laugh.
So it's probably going to be better than The Chaperone.
Yes. Yes. I would almost bet money on it that, yes, it will be better than The Chaperone. So check out The Big Show on Netflix. By the way, if you have not heard, there's this series called Tiger King. Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
So from the Joe Exotic from Oklahoma. So he did wrestling commentary.
Yeah.
Now
and you were there.
You and I have done wrestling commentary, and we have room for improvement. Compared to him,
I'm no Jim Ross, obviously.
Compared to him, you are. Compared to him, I'm Gordon Soley.
Well, I mean,
god awful.
Okay, so let me ask you this: who? I wish this was like a video so I could put the pictures up. But you have to visualize with me here. Who is the better wrestling commentator? Joe Exotic, Art Donovan, or Rod Bartlett?
I would put Art Donovan second. Art Donovan first, Rod Bartlett second, Joe Exotic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Worse than Bartlett? Because Bartlett was pretty unwatchable during those, or unlistenable to during those early days of Raw.
Nothing on Joe Exotic.
Wow.
Nothing. Before we go, we talked to Dustin Rhodes earlier in the show. He has a new T-shirt on ProWrestlingTees.com. You can look that up, ProWrestlingTees.com, search Dustin Rhodes, and you'll see it. It says The Natural. It's got a nice circle with the state of Texas. And if you buy that shirt, all the profits from that shirt will go to the Central Texas Food Bank to help with their COVID-19 relief efforts. So check that out, ProWrestlingTees.com, search Dustin Rhodes, and you can contribute to the COVID-19 efforts at the Central Texas Food Bank. That'll do it for this week's Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. Great 2 hours. Again, thanks to the Fight Night boys for giving us their hour.
I thought we took it from them.
Well,
I know. I'm just playing. Playing. That's a takeover means we take.
And we may be doing it again, so just stay tuned. But for now, you can follow Justin the Smash Simmons on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at The Smash Simmons. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. That's STEWMYRICK. You can follow the show on Twitter at SGTWATX. Follow the station on Twitter at The Horn ATX. You can find the show on Facebook and Instagram at Sports Guys Talking Wrestling. We're proud to be the official broadcast partner of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. Proud to be part of the great lineup that you can hear every day on The Horn, the flagship station for the Texas Longhorns. Catch us Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Central, unless we get an extra hour, on The Horn, or catch us anytime on demand by going to your favorite podcast provider or going to hornfm.com and clicking on the On-Air tab. Our thanks to Evan Husney, Dustin Rhodes, Godzilla Jax Dane, and Crimson for joining us, and our thanks to you for giving us a little bit of your time tonight. For Justin, I'm Stu. We will see you at the matches.
Goodbye and good night.